So to start out, just in your own words for anyone watching, let them know what Egghead and Twinkie is all about.
Sure. Egghead and Twinkie is a coming of age comedy about coming out of the closet. It follows these two teenage best friends named Egghead and Twinkie, and they embark on this cross-country road trip to meet a lesbian Instagrammer in person for the very first time. So it's kind of a buddy comedy, road trip movie, coming of age story all rolled into one.
For me, one of the coolest things about this project was that it was crowdfunded through TikTok. So can you tell me a little bit about your inspiration for the film and what drew you to TikTok as a platform to build support?
Absolutely. The initial inspiration for the film was really to create a comedy about the coming out process because it was an interesting challenge and something I personally hadn't seen before. And I think I'm someone I cope with a lot of things with like humor and self-deprecating humor. So for me, it's like if we take something that is oftentimes so hard for queer people, the coming out process, and we're able to find the heart and humor in that, then I think that there is a certain power to that. So that's really where the initial idea came from. And then my thought to take it to TikTok was that the film itself is, about two teenagers, so younger people, and then the movie was made by a crew of younger people. Primarily the people working on Egghead and Twinkie were between the ages of 18 and 25 at the time of filming, myself included. None of us had ever made a feature before. So it was very much a kind of scrappy, can do kind of thing. And that was what I saw on TikTok. I saw a lot of young people on TikTok that were just making content with no rules. And so I felt like our movie would be a good fit for that platform.
Yeah, great. And it was definitely so cool. I looked through your TikTok and just to see the support that you built and see that engagement just from looking for someone to help out with the animation to seeing the behind the scenes process. I think that was so cool to see what was built on TikTok. I'll say one of the things, with the film, it portrays Twinkie as having a crush on a social media influencer who in the film is played by the real life influencer Aiden Lee. I wanted to know what your casting process was like for that role, and did you have Aiden in mind when you were originally writing the script?
I did not have Aiden in mind, but I did think about the possibility of bringing in a social media influencer to play that role. Um, so the casting process for BD specifically, we did have some people come in locally. The film was made in Florida. So we had Florida actors come in and read for BD, but then also I reached out to a number of influencers, online LGBT influencers that I felt would be a good fit for that role. So it was kind of a mixture of the two. And some people responded to my weird DM and some people didn't. Thankfully, Aiden was one of them that did respond. um, and we got him in to do an audition. And yeah, it was a great fit because he was able to bring a lot of his own experience to the table. Because at the time, Aiden identified as a lesbian and was like a lesbian TikToker. So he was able to take a lot of his real life experience and put that into the character.
Yeah, definitely a great LGBTQ representation in this film. One of the most interesting things for me about it as a queer person is we've seen so many films where queer characters play the supportive film in a cisgender heterosexual person's story. And this film, but with the relationship and friendship with Egghead and Twinkie, subverts that. So what do you hope is conveyed through that friendship between the two lead characters?
That's such a great point about subverting the trope. And that's very much something that I was thinking in my head is there's that whole trope of the gay best friend to the straight character. And usually the gay best friend is a male gay best friend as well. I hadn't really seen that dynamic at the time. Now there have been a few more films that have come out since then. But at the time that I was writing Egghead and Twinkie the short, I hadn't seen like lesbian best friend to straight guy and him supporting her being in the supporting role. So that was something that I gravitated towards just for that reason, because I hadn't really seen it. But I'm hoping, their kind of core message of friendship in the film will really resonate with people from all walks of life. Like I had somebody I did I spoke to who told me that after they watched the movie, they wanted to call up all their friends. And I thought that that was just really sweet. And it's something I hope everyone takes away from the movie.
Yeah, great to see that on screen, subverting those expectations. So, one other neat thing about the film, you incorporate animated elements throughout. Um, what was your process like in planning those shots? Was there a lot of storyboarding and pre-production, or did some of those elements come together in post?
There was definitely a lot of prep in pre, but then there was also kind of some spontaneous discoveries that happened in post as well. So the process of finding our animator, you kind of touched on it earlier, is that I went on TikTok and posted essentially a crew call in like a 60-second TikTok video. And we had hundreds of submissions come in for that. I went through them, looked for someone that had our very specific skill set that we were looking for. So it wasn't just someone that could do 2D animation, but also someone that had experience mixing 2D animation with live action. And that's how I found Jill, who's based out of Cleveland. So for the entirety of our working relationship, Jill and I were working remotely, Jill out of Cleveland and me out of Florida. So all of our prep, yeah, there were storyboarding, a lot of Zoom calls, figuring out where we wanted the animation to appear. Some of that was written into the script. So some of it I had in mind from the very beginning, and then some of it Jill and I kind of fleshed out together. And then when we got into post, it was kind of this interesting process where it's like some of the shots that we had planned, when we finally saw them come to fruition, the animation was mixed with the live action. Sometimes it wouldn't work or the animation would be distracting. So there were some scenes that were meant to have animation that we later went in and we ended up taking it out because we felt like it was stronger without. And then sometimes the reverse situation where we hadn't planned for animation originally, but it ended up making it stronger. So it was a little bit of trial and error.
Yeah, and it definitely neat to see that finished product. So, one thing that I want to know with this film having such strong LGBTQ representation, what do you feel is the most important thing to get right, just for the industry in general when it comes to queer representation in media?
I feel like the most important thing is to really let queer people speak for themselves. And I think that that's what makes it so exciting to be a part of something like Outfest, where it's a lot of queer filmmakers making the stories that they feel are important. Because it's nobody like us that's going to know how to tell our stories better. Um, so I think that that's the most important thing is really honoring the integrity of the story and the people whose lived experiences have influenced that story.
Great. So definitely, good to see that representation. And, as people look to this film and look at this incredible following that you built on TikTok and, your ability to crowdfund, what would be your advice to aspiring filmmakers who might want to use social media to crowdfund or build support for a creative project?
Well, I'm definitely not an expert. Keeping up with social media is really hard. I know that firsthand. But I think the most important thing or the thing I would recommend is to always be looking for new opportunities where they don't already exist. So with TikTok, when we jumped on it, it was just really starting to blow up because there was a period of time where TikTok, only like 10-year-olds went on TikTok. And then I started to notice that there was momentum happening behind that app. So I joined the app, didn't post anything, just like kind of did field research almost for like 3 months where I was just scrolling and seeing the types of content that were out there. And it was during that time that I realized there was a complete lack of film production content on TikTok. The only film content that existed was like movie critics, like people saying, oh, I like this movie, I don't like this movie, that kind of thing. But nobody posting behind the scenes really, or there it was very little content of that kind. So it was then that I saw an opportunity that I was like, okay, we can come in and provide something and use this app in a way that I hadn't really seen it used for a feature project. So social media is always changing. So I guess I would say look for the up and coming platforms and the ways that they might be able to benefit your project.
Yeah, it seems like there's at least five up and coming platforms just in the past few weeks with
Yeah.
everything going on with Twitter. So Yeah. So, yeah, just to, close it out, it's going to be playing at Outfest. It just let everyone know where they can find your film at festivals and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be at Outfest on Friday the 21st at 5 p.m. at DGA 2. And then we're going to the Asian American International Film Festival in New York City at the end of this month. And then we'll be at the Vancouver Queer Film Festival in August, as well as CineQuest in August.
Okay, awesome. So, yeah, definitely a great addition to the lineup at Outfest. So I am so happy that you talked with me today, Sarah. And again, thanks for chatting.
Thanks, Matt. This has been awesome.